You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nika Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva. Welcome to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. I want to welcome you back to another week of the Snob OS show. Again, I want to thank you for your continued support of our show. Also, you can head on over to patreon.com/snoboscast to watch our show live when it is live and to get exclusive content. As you notice today, I am recording solo, and last week Terrence was recording solo, so we seem to flip-flop in our vacation time these last 2 weeks. And I have to say, 3 countries in 3 weeks was a lot. And now that I'm back and settled, hopefully for a little bit of time, those 3 countries, I get to add those magnets to my little magnet stand back here. St. Lucia, Dubai, and Paris, France. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's show. We will be back to regularly scheduled programming next week. And again, this show this week will be fairly abbreviated. I won't hit all the segments, but I did want to be able to bring you some content from the Snob OS crew. So let's get started with the Lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. First, we are going to kick it off with Apple has already rolled out a new AirTag firmware update. So they rolled out this update on Tuesday, March 19th, and this was the first update for AirTags since October. So that's something. The new version of the AirTag software build is build number 2 Alpha 7 3 and firmware version 2.0.73. As usual, no word on what is actually in the AirTag firmware update to date, but Apple does have a support document with AirTag update release notes, but at this time, the webpage does not have the update for this latest build, but we will be sure to include that link to this article and also the link to the support docs in the event that Apple does get around to updating it and telling us what exactly is in this latest AirTag firmware update. Next up, Apple redesigns App Store purchase history page with more details and filters. So there were some discrete changes that happened post iOS 17.4, and people were noticing that there were some changes going on and they weren't quite sure, what to make of it. But Apple has slowly and discreetly revealed that it redesigned the App Store's purchase history page, which now provides more details about each purchase and also introduces filters. So with the update, Apple has made it easier for users to check the details of purchases made through not only the App Store, but in-app purchases and even Apple subscriptions. This new design of the App Store purchase history page seems to be available globally. You can access it simply by tapping on your profile icon in the iOS App Store. So if you want to know what's been going on with your app purchase history, you can go over there and be able to access all that information with the default, I believe, being set to the last 90 days. So all in all, making it a little bit easier for users to find the history of their purchases as it relates to the App Store. Next up, Apple's making a lot of changes. There is a new page on Apple's website that helps users find product manuals and guides. So the Apple support website helps users find information specifically about the Apple devices that they own. This includes technical specifications, guides, and support articles. However, in the past, all this information was kind of spread out all across multiple pages, and you had to kind of cobble it together to get a full sense of support and help documents for a particular device. But Apple has now changed that with a new document page. The new document page is a place to find and download, which is key. You can download manuals, specs, and other firmware downloads as well. It organizes all of the available information by product category, such as the product line for Mac, iPhone, iPad, AirPods, HomePods, displays, and even iPod. Who has an iPod anymore? I'm sure there's some out there, but I'm pretty sure it's fairly a small amount of people. But if you need some support docs on this documents page, you can get that information even for your iPod. So you just simply choose a product or search below to view related documents and available downloads. And this is what the web page basically says. The website also has a search field for users looking for specific information. Additionally, to the web page, there is an Apple support app that is available in the App Store. So it makes it a little bit easier to find any help documents that you need if you're on one of your devices, say your iPhone or your iPad. Makes it really simple. In addition to the website, you have this app that you can go and download, and we'll put that in the show notes so you can have easy access to that as well. Up next, this is a little bit different, but I guess maybe not so much. But again, change. Apple has been making a lot of changes lately. So Apple's focus on AI has been noted that it is one of those things that Apple is really going to focus on this year. And what seems to have happened is there are some rumblings and some articles out there that Apple could be focusing on local AI models and licensing LLMs, which could be a winning combo. So here's what the update is. The company recently made news that it may possibly license Google's Gemini AI. We've talked about it on the show before. However, it appears as if Apple's potential partnership with an LLM provider, while providing smaller local models, may help to get ahead of other manufacturers. At least this is what JP Morgan is saying. So if the reports prove true, Apple will focus on its strength, like on-device processing, instead of building a proprietary LLM for one of the partnerships. And for the second potential partnership, as I mentioned before, with Google to license Gemini AI LLM for iPhones. This report just arrived a day or so after Apple published a research paper on MM1, which is a smaller pre-trained model that you could run locally on a user's iPhone. So you could actually run the LLM locally on an iPhone. So these types of partnerships that I mentioned, both with working with local AI models and also a partnership with Google's Gemini AI. These partnerships aren't particularly new to Apple. If you think about it, Apple has an agreement currently with Google for search. So Google gets to be the default search engine for the web, while Apple provides a powerful and private local search tool called Spotlight. So again, this type of partnership with two different groups, two different companies, two different orgs, whatever you want to call them, that basically kind of feeds into the same goal is not unusual for Apple. So these news stories about potential partnerships are being called complementary and not necessarily contradictory. And the JP Morgan note suggests Apple's two-prong approach could give it a leg up, meaning that it's not putting all of its eggs in one basket, so to speak. And this will allow Apple to focus on smaller on-device models that protect user privacy, which is super important, rather than releasing a controversial LLM that relies on piles and piles of data found all around the web. So in the end, the customer gets the best of both worlds. And that's going to wrap it up for the Lowdown. I did have one other story that I did want to talk about in Second String, where we talk all other tech. And this is quite interesting. On the show, Terrence and I, we joke about Elon Musk. But this particular story has some legs, and it seems to be getting some positive feedback. So Neuralink, they finally, the first time, released a video showing a patient using the brain implant to play chess on a laptop. So, as I mentioned, Elon Musk, its company is called Neuralink, which is a brain-computer interface company. And I will put the link in the show notes so you can actually take a look at the video if you're interested. And this video is showing the first human patient using Neuralink's brain implant to control a mouse cursor to play a game of chess. The company's first human patient is 29-year-old Nolan Arbaugh. And he said that the technology has changed his life, but that it, quote, there's still a lot of work to be done, end quote. So Arbaugh, this patient that has had this implant inserted into his brain, was injured in a driving accident 8 years ago, and it paralyzed him below the shoulders. And in his own description, he says that the Neuralink implant is like using the Force from the Star Wars franchise, allowing him to just stare somewhere on the screen and move the cursor to where he wants. That's really impressive, right? Additionally, the Neuralink implant has also allowed him to play the video game Civilization 6 for 8 hours straight. Now, I don't know if anybody should be playing any game 8 hours straight, but it does give him the ability to do so. But he was limited in this time frame by having to wait for the implant to charge. So, that makes sense. You playing anything or doing anything for 8 hours straight, battery life becomes an issue. So battery life becomes a component to be aware of. I don't think it's necessarily an issue. It's just a fact of life when you're using battery powered technology. The FDA, however, did give Neuralink permission to conduct in-human clinical trials just last year. And shortly after the FDA gave Neuralink this permission, the company announced that it was seeking test subjects for an initial 6-year trial. So one of the key things about Neuralink, because this type of technology isn't completely new, but what's different about Neuralink is that it allows data to be transmitted wirelessly, whereas previous iterations did not have this capability. Currently, Neuralink is being pitched as an assistive, adaptive technology to help those who may have, through whatever circumstance, lost some of the function and motor skills in their body. However, they hope that in the long run, that this type of brain implant will be able to be implanted in perfectly healthy people to enhance their capabilities. It seems that this portion of it, going into perfectly healthy people without any type of a deficiency, seems to be a way off. It's very interesting that the goal is to ultimately use it to enhance. Almost, to me, it reads as giving people kind of like superhero powers, maybe not to the extent of flying, but maybe enhancing intellect, brain power, and those type of things. This concept is something that's very new, change that is something that, is kind of like, wow, into the future, this is something that we thought it would be. But, change is now, change is here. If you have any thoughts on Neuralink, and if you would be willing with changes, going down the road of having this implant inserted in your brain to give you, quote, enhanced capabilities, please shout us out on social media and let us know if you would be willing to be one of the healthy participants to get this Neuralink brain implant. So that is going to wrap up the abbreviated show this week. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. And next week, Terrence and I both will be back on the podcast, bringing you all the segments that you know and love and bringing you the latest in Apple news and technology news. So you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva pretty much all over social media. You can also follow the show on social media at SnobOScast. And if you want to connect, comment, share, and support our show, you can head on over to snoboscast.com to get all of the details. And with that, it's going to wrap up this week's episode of the SnobOS Show, and we'll see you again next week. Bye, everybody.